Good morning. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your nonprofit origin story?
Hi. My name is Joshua, and I come from Uganda. Um, Born and raised in a family of seven siblings. I'm the youngest.
Wow.
Um, in 1999, I lost my sister. She was a student. She contracted AIDS. And at times, as I grew older, I started interacting with my family members, asking them about what had happened and everything. And I was told that actually it is kind of a taboo to talk about reproductive health in our society. My mom, she's a little bit hesitant to talk about it. But then one time we had a discussion. I'm like, so what happened? And then she told me she passed on, she contracted HIV, she was very young, we didn't have any help. By then there weren't any kind of medication and all those kind of things. And the fact that reproductive health is like a taboo here, it is
Yeah.
highly stigmatized. So that also contributed to how people in the early days of HIV used to access the necessary services or help basically they needed.
Yeah.
So as a student, when I went to campus, I realized that the very same things that my sibling was going through or could have gone through, the same things were happening. I had fellow classmates that dropped out of school, that got pregnant. I had a friend that they were just casually dating, then the girl was pregnant. There was a phase in these ends when there were this type of condoms that were substandard, but nobody knew. So all these
Yeah.
students were getting pregnant, but they didn't know why they were getting pregnant. So that kind of pushed me to think of something to do. With years of experience in reproductive health, I was like, okay, maybe I could use my knowledge to think of something. So I started up something that's called Wekume. Actually, Wekume means to protect yourself. We believe that students hold an individual responsibility to protect themselves first. And Wekume is focusing on preventative approaches. You know what? If you don't want to be sexually active, that's okay. That is one form of protecting yourself. But if you choose to be sexually active, you have to protect yourself. Use
Yeah.
contraceptives. Have one partner. Constantly go and check. And these are things that are available in our society. But the fact that they are stigmatized, it makes it harder for students to access such services. So that's the genesis of Wekume and how it came about out of a personal experience with my sibling, and now, yeah, to this day.
It's amazing. I love it. That's so great. And I know we talked and you hadn't launched yet. This is fairly new and has been a project you've been working on a long time, but just in February was your
Right.
launch.
Yeah.
That's
February
amazing.
14th.
February is a great Valentine's Day gift, right?
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I love
Uh-huh.
this. And what's your favorite part of being in the nonprofit industry? What do you love about this work?
It is very interesting because most of the nonprofits that I've engaged with, that I've worked with, or that I've interacted with, when I speak to their founders, it has been a personal experience that pushed them to set up something. When we went to the Ministry of Health sometime last year and we were like, this is what we are doing, this is what we want to do, the Ministry of Health was like, you know what, guys, this is something that nobody has done anything about. So you are the first people to be in this space. And when we went again last month to try to chat with them, they were like, we won't guarantee your funding, but we know what you're doing is really important because the ministry doesn't have any funding.
Yeah.
So with the US pulling out, the US, I just actually today I listened and the was saying they're not going to be funding any preventative approaches in HIV related issues. So we're in a very interesting space right now.
Yeah.
So something that really interests me is that having the capability to drive change in my society and be able to fill in a gap that I didn't know would exist anyways, but we're just coming at the right time when people need it. I think to me, and the fact that this is and nonprofits are also being innovative these days. I've always liked to be innovative. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and these are these things that Wekume is doing. So being able to have space to be innovative, to be entrepreneur, to be able to impact other people's lives. Because I don't think
Yeah.
a student should be able to drop out of school just because she got pregnant or because impregnated somebody's daughter or maybe because contracted HIV or any decision that might come out of miscalculations as a student. I think that students deserve more. So
Yeah.
being able to drive that kind of impact, be able to contribute to somebody's life, I think to me that is something I love about the nonprofit world.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think you said something really special because you're looking at nonprofit as a place to be an innovator. And so often people look at nonprofits and they don't think of the word innovation, which is so sad because I think
Mm-hmm.
nonprofits do have a lot of power to be
Yeah.
innovative, but we have to step into that role. We have
Mm-hmm.
to embrace it as innovative.
Definitely, that's very true.
I
Yeah.
love it. I think that's such a cool offering, and what you've created is incredible. As you've been starting to build out Wekume and it's now launched, what are some of the challenges you've experienced on the way to creating this nonprofit?
Oh man, quite a lot. But one thing that I recently experienced was burnout. I
Yeah.
completely got burned out, and I didn't know what was wrong. I just felt ill. I didn't know what was happening. And this was days after the launch, when we launched our piloting. I burned out and like thoughts. I just felt ill for a week or two. I didn't know what was the issue. But while I was talking to one of my team members, they're like, maybe that is the issue, like the anxiety, the excitement. I mean, my team has grown to over 39 people in
Amazing.
just like 3 months. In just 3 months, we have people from Asia that are working with us, people from Europe, from Africa, from North America. We have so many people around that are working with us. And I think that whole experience, having to be at the center, coordinating, being every meeting, trying to keep tabs on everything, I think that is where I got banned. But later on, I'm also realizing the other things as an entrepreneur that you're facing being in a non-profit world, or specifically at Wekume. I remember when I was starting out Wekume, it was just me with a friend standing on one of the highways. It's called Entebbe Road. It's the highway from the airport. We are just chatting about it, and then I'm like, oh, maybe we could do this, and then boom. And then and then another friend jumped on, and then people have been coming on and off. I think another challenge I can think of is having people that like attracting talent and retaining talent. I
Yeah.
think that is another issue, because when things are hard, you don't have anybody to pay. Everyone is just using their talents. People, we live in a society where people they are. It's like we are living hand to mouth. If you don't work today, you're not gonna eat tonight. So being able to find somebody that is willing to be on the team has been a really challenge. It has been a big challenge for me. But I've also realized that the more I've grown as an individual, I've realized that, I could make connections with people, and nonprofit Hive has been a big part of that, as well as the We Make Change. They've helped me, and you introduced me by the way to that one, the We Make Change.
Yeah. They're great.
So yeah, that has been a very good tool for me to get talent and be able to sift through who comes. And I mean, we got over, I think we have over 50 applications in total to join Wekume. But even the process of going through to pick the talent, interviewing, sometimes I'm meeting people at 2 in the morning. Sometimes I have to wake up at 5 just to be in meetings. But just because it's something I care about, you obviously do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think another challenge is self-doubt. Yeah, sometimes you, like when we had all these people join the team, there's a time when I was like, are we really gonna pull this off? I looked at it, I'm like, this is too big. And I kind of doubted myself. So I think that is one of the things that really, that kind of challenged me. But I've been able to overcome that. Okay, this is it, this is happening. So yeah, I think those are some of the things I can think. I mean, the list is pretty long, but I don't wanna,
Yeah. No, they're the exact same challenges, Joshua, that I have right now too, right?
mm-hmm,
The nonprofit Hive is 18 months old, 18
mm-hmm,
months,
mm-hmm.
and it feels so big. And I just brought on, we had our first people staff in September. So it's not even,
Right.
it's just coming up on 6 months, and you're looking at it and all of a sudden it used to be just me and I did all of it and I figured it all out. And I thought I think there's that feeling once you have a team that it'll get easier when there's a team, but it doesn't immediately get easier because
No.
before it was just me. And I'm very good, probably similar to yourself, just put my head down and I work, and I can work for a long time. But then when you're having to try to explain to somebody else your vision and your idea, that's so hard. It's so hard to
Yep.
explain that,
That
right?
is very true. That is very, and
Yeah.
when I sometimes tell my team that I'm like, you know what, guys, most of the things that I say about Wekume are not even listed down anywhere. They're not on
Yeah.
paper anywhere. They're just in my head. So if I have a challenge if I'm to explain to every single person or everything that I have in mind, it's going to be confusing.
Yeah.
One time we asked somebody, one of the team members asked me what was the long-term goal for 5 years. And I told them that this is not happening. So I'm like, and I was
Yeah.
just testing the waters. So I'm like, no.
I have people who same thing go, "What's your 5-year plan?" And I'm like, "I don't have one yet. Thank you for thinking I have one. I'm still figuring it out." And yeah, it's a challenge going from founder to leader, right? Because they're
Uh-huh.
not the same thing. There's like a founder and then there's a leader, and eventually you're going to be both, but it doesn't just happen overnight.
Yep.
It's very
And
challenging.
true. And actually, and one of the things that I'm actually thinking, and I've explained and I've chatted with my team with a couple of things. I'm like, you know what? When we get to a certain level, I'm gonna step aside as a CEO and focus on innovation within Wekume, because I might be the vision bearer, but I think I would rather focus on the innovation part of Wekume than worry about having to make decision about money, finance, fundraising, all those kind of things. I mean, I'll love to keep tabs on those, but I'd rather have somebody manage the resources of the organization for me while I focus on innovative approaches of Wekume and what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's actually the sign of a great leader, to know sometimes where your genius is, right? Like sometimes it's
Mm-hmm.
better to go, I'm great for this and I will be amazing. And someone else would be a better CEO. That's actually,
Mm-hmm.
that's a, that's not a bad thing to recognize that in yourself. So my next question is about peer support. As you started out in nonprofit, as you've started to build, how does peer support help you in your work?
When you say peer support, do you mean my team members?
It can be your team members, it can be other people in nonprofit as you were
Yeah,
starting to build and get
yeah,
ideas and like workshop this idea in the nonprofit space. Those peers, I guess, that also work in other
right.
nonprofits.
You meet people that you've never met before, and they're like, "Hey, I know somebody. I connect with this person. I connect with this." It has been phenomenal, and I think, and the fact that we are in a very sensitive part of the nonprofit, where like everyone is trying to talk about it, but not really because of the. I've had a lot of people that, I mean, I could mention over 50 people that I've met, and they're like, "Hey, we like what you're doing, and we are willing to support you." And I think also when you want support, I think also it gets confusing with to me it has gotten me confused a little bit, because as a nonprofit, sometimes as a startup, sometimes you're struggling with funding, but I personally do not think money is the only thing. I've taught and I, I'm pushing this with my team. I'm like, it is
Yeah.
relationships. Those are the ones that will help us get where we're going. And I think to me, the most tricky part is when I meet somebody, for example, on a call, we connect very well and all those kind of things. One of the challenging issues has been to continue that relationship to a
Yeah.
point where we can have a second call, a third call. I mean, there are people that I connected with and they are great people. They were willing to support me. But then sometimes it gets to a point where you cannot reach them anymore. And then you're like, okay, how do I do that? But again, that gives you a lesson to move on. When I meet another person, what do I do? How do I make sure? What can I change? Evaluating yourself. And to me, that might not be as supporting in a way, but the fact that I'm able to learn from the people that I meet, to me, every person has been able to add something onto me. Say, okay, this is what you're doing, this is what you're doing, and this is what I'm doing. This is what you are doing, and this is what I'm doing. Even
Yeah.
if it's just a 1 minute call, a text, to me, I think, and even like somebody like, sometimes I'm on LinkedIn and then somebody comments on your post, you don't even know them, or maybe somebody wants to
Yeah.
connect with you and you don't even know them. I'm like, okay, I guess this is something good.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think talking about our work is really important, right? And it's
Hmm.
important for us as we practice saying what our mission is, especially as a founder. You have to be able to communicate that. And I'm sure you mentioned lots of different challenges. There'll probably be new ones in 6 months that maybe someone else will have already experienced that, and they'll have some suggestions. And yeah, it's always great. I love meeting new people in the sector. It's fantastic. My final question that I always ask is, what have you gotten out of being a member of the nonprofit Hive?
There is a guy called Pius Isabidie. When I met him, we didn't meet actually on the very day. Sometimes I've realized that sometimes somebody sets up the time and can we meet another time? So, okay, fine. Especially people that are in Uganda. But when I met him, he actually was the first to tell me, hey, you know what, man? I like your mission. I like what you're doing. You need to start posting more about this. You need to.
Yeah.
Actually, ever since that day, I've never gone back. I've always been posting. And I recently looked through my analytics impressions this week. And just this week, I think I have over 3,000 impressions on my posts.
Awesome.
And I'm like, okay, that is really good. So I think to me, it's kind of like what we said. Sometimes you're there and then somebody you met 2 or 3 months ago, hey, I just thought about you. I thought I should check in with you. And I've also been able to do the same thing. Say, guys, there is something I know. Can we share?
Yeah.
That kind of mutual benefit. So we come on a table whereby I have something to offer and you have something to offer. So we are all exchanging something.
Ideas. And you've taken 25 chats now. Just I looked. It was 25.
Wow.
I know. Exactly. I always like to tell people because a lot of the times they don't know. I think you just sign up and week after week goes by but yeah, you've taken 25, which is amazing.
Wow. Those are 25 weeks, right?
Yes, 25 weeks. Yeah, exactly. 25 weeks.
Yeah.
So I always like to finish off with these interviews, but what are some of the goals for the year ahead for Wekume, for your team? What are you hoping to do this year?
This year, we hope to come up with a better version of the app. Actually, if you allow me, one of the things that we are struggling with is having developers on our team. That has been I've met so many people, even the CSG was helping me find developers. Also, some other guys were helping me get, but we haven't really gotten that touch. And that is something that we are really pushing hard to make sure that we have on the team. Yeah, but one of the things that we are really looking towards is finishing the piloting. We have over 6 months of piloting. We want to be done by around October. I think that is our goal. And then we want to have a pause somewhere in June and then resume in July. And then we want to launch in January 2026. We want to launch the final app, a beta version, and we want to impact at least 5,000 students by the time we come to the launch. And we are looking at having around 1 million followers by January on all our social media platforms. That is TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So that is something that we are looking at doing.
That's amazing. So how can people follow along with you best? Where can they get in touch with you after this interview if they wanted to connect?
Yeah, I think one of the best ways will be on LinkedIn under my name, Joshua Emmanuel Walusimbi. You can just shoot me a message. I'm also on LinkedIn. And Wekume, there's plenty of my team that are on LinkedIn that you can reach out and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Or if you want to be involved, you can always shoot us a message. LinkedIn, I think, will be the best place to do that.
Awesome. I actually saw one of your team members, Sarah, signed up recently. I think she had her first chat last week. So
yes, she did. I encourage her to do that.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this interview with me, and just your success is incredible. I love the personal parts behind your story of getting going. But I think this is going to be not just a tool within Uganda, but I can see this being a much bigger tool across Africa and the world at large. I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, exciting. I'm so happy to be able to have this interview with you. It is really incredible.